Hiya, hiya. Our guest is Susan Shumsky, who traveled with the Beatles and Maharishi and has a great story, but she has to get ready. She has, I'm surprising her, and she has to go and, I don't know how a hippie has to go get ready. What's she going to do? Go and light one up? I don't know. But the Maharishi here is a very, very good example of someone who captured the imagination of America and attached his hands on their wallets, too, which is a really good thing. You know, when you are able to do that, you're a capitalist. But he, of course, was on the other persuasion that he was doing all of this for the common good. His good was very common. And I will tell you this much. The Maharishi was appearing at the Bushnell Auditorium in Hartford, Connecticut. And as I recall, Dick Robinson, who owns the Connecticut Schools of Broadcasting, he was a host, the MC of a appearance of the Beach Boys and the Maharishi. He had been evicted from the courtship of the Beatles and put in with the Beach Boys, you know, a lesser name, but not that much lesser, more American. And the Maharishi was in the dressing room at the Bushnell Auditorium, which is where they have these concerts. It's a rather good space. It's not like Madison Square Garden, you know, where it's really huge. It's an auditorium, more like, I'd say a little like Lincoln Center in New York, if you know the value of that one. Anyway, the Maharishi was sitting there, and on a table, when I walked into the room, I'd never met him before. Of course, I knew who he was from the Beatles experience, but I hadn't spent any time with him, and they were reluctant to introduce me to him because they thought that I might have some things to say that would dissuade him from wanting to go on with the performance. And I said, "No, ridiculous. Let me go meet the guy." So he's sitting on a table surrounded by flowers. And he had tons of flowers around him. I mean, I've never seen such a bouquet. I've been to the best of funerals and the biggest of weddings, but I never saw this many floral displays around a human being. You could practically just not see him. He was in lotus position, I think. And he had that wonderful big smile on his face, which he had all this time. He smiled. And when I went up to talk to him, he turned his head. And Dick Robinson laughed. All the guys laughed because they knew that he didn't want to hear my crap. The Maharishi tuned me out. And I went, you know, what am I going to do? I couldn't even get my bad jokes in there. He just dismissed me entirely. So I did 28 years of Bikram yoga and got even. Anyway, that's it. That's my Maharishi story. We got to kill a little time here because Susan's coming up. Susan Shumsky, she's putting on her makeup and she's got a roach clip and in her hair, and also she's going to go to San Francisco. Isn't that the old song? If you're going to San Francisco, wear a flower in your hair. Not as many as the Maharishi, incidentally. This guy was bouquet crazy. Am I on memory lane here? Yeah. Oh wow! I didn't know they had a street named after it. Look at, you know what this picture is over here? That's me and Les Paul. That's a memory. Oh, we got a nice. I live in a nice street. I like this. It's a dead end on a cul-de-sac. All right, we'll be right back with Susan. So here we are with my memories, and usually we don't do nostalgia because everybody's doing that. I live in the present, in the moment, because I'm metaphysically healed, and I don't know if there ever is an end to metaphysical, but it sounds good. Anyway, I have with me, and you probably see her beautiful face on the screen here. This is Susan Shumsky, Dr. Shumsky, and we call her that because, why do we call you that? Are you doing operations or something? You're not a surgeon, right?
Because I'm a doctor of divinity.
Oh, a divine doctor.
Divine doctor.
Yeah, well, I have one too. He charges me as if he's doing it free. Anyway, I got a wonderful picture I want to share with you. Does this look familiar to you, Susan?
Absolutely. Very familiar, yes.
This is
That is the Beatles with Maharishi in Rishikesh, India.
1968.
1968, February to April, they were there with Maharishi. That's the day when the Earth's orbit stood still for a moment and then started again.
Yeah. So who's fussing around with the screen? Leave it alone. We're on the air live. Thank you, Jay. So Susan Having traveled with the Beatles or the Maharishi and living in an ashram, we got to start somewhere with this story because, I know a little bit about you, but maybe you'll reveal a little more today. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
how old are you? No, don't do that.
72.
Are you really? God bless you. Boy, you look great. You look like Dolly Parton.
I wish.
Yeah, I was last time I saw you. Look the same. You always look great. You look terrific. I think
so do you. You look the same since I saw you like 30 years ago or whenever I saw you last.
Whatever it was, I don't know. We don't count years, do we? Do we have a count?
No, we don't.
No. What do we count?
We count smiles.
Yeah, well, turn me upside down and see the rings on my nose. That's it. I was thinking about your trip to your journey. All right. Now you're still very active. You're writing. You've written. How many books have you written now?
I have 18 books in print, 36 foreign editions. I've won 40 book awards.
Wow. And
my memoir, Maharishi and Me, Seeking Enlightenment with the Beatles Guru, has won 13 book awards.
Yeah. Well, most people want to know if you slept with them.
Well, let's see. I think I slept with just about everybody back then when I was a flower child. I did have a little something going on with Robbie Krieger, who was in the Doors. Let's see who else. Ned Wynn, who was Keenan Wynn's grandson, and Keenan Wynn's son and Ed Wynn's grandson. Whatever, we could count all the various.
Well, how come you did never? We're in a time now where everybody wants a lawyer to get money from someone that they slept with.
Right.
How much cash you got from these guys? Anybody ever give you any hush money for these stories?
No, of course not.
No, because everything was voluntary, right?
But people thought that Maharishi was celibate, but he wasn't. I know quite a number of women who either had sex with him or were bidden to have sex with him.
Yeah, well,
who cares at this point?
Yeah, I didn't care then. He wore all those swaddling clothes. He was like 3 sheets to the wind.
That's right.
Maybe 4 sheets. There was another guy, I don't know if you remember him, in LA. There was a place called The Source on Sunset Boulevard. And there was a guy named Jim Baker. Did you ever hear that name? He was.
That eludes me, yeah.
Well, he was a guru, and he had a house up on the hills, and he had all these love slaves, they were workers in the place. They all wore these swaddling clothes, and It was the first health food experience I ever had. I didn't go there for the food.
Went there for the babes, right?
It was great. And then the guys all had ponytails, and all the girls were wearing hairnets, which is right now, I don't know if they do it with a mask. But The Source was the place, for organic and clean foods. You've lived that way all of your life, isn't that true?
Yeah, I actually only eat organic foods. I'm a vegetarian, and I've done that most of my life. Yeah, I've lived a kind of a healthy lifestyle, and I practice meditation and try to be as healthy as possible. Yeah.
Are you? I have a cockatiel. I have a bird.
Oh.
And she's very fussy. She eats only gluten-free. And, I've got a bad seed, I think. But do you have gluten-free? Are you into any of that, or GSMO or whatever the hell they call it?
Well, non-GMO, yeah.
Yeah, are you doing that?
But I don't eat gluten-free. No, I don't. No. I'm not allergic to gluten, so that's good.
Now, on the screen with us, next to us, is someone who's just absolutely gluten-free. This is Jay Sorensen, and I don't think you ever met Jay because he was not with me in New York on WOR, but he was with me at NBC before that. We worked
Jay.
together.
Hello.
Good to meet you.
Same here.
Now Jay is I named him Jay the Jock because he was the guy that carried a Captain Kirk lunch bucket to work when he was making $150,000 a year. Nobody would have a bucket with a sandwich in it and make that kind of money. Only Jay would do that.
Yeah.
But But he lived in Lakewood, New Jersey. He was fighting off the Hasidim. You know, there were Jay was a part of the cult religion. He was a disc jockey at the shore who didn't drink, but he played music, and so he loves the '60s music. He had a '60s show on NBC and all the stuff that you really know about because you lived it. I did too. But Jay's a little younger. He's about an hour younger than you and I. But he has been playing this music, and he probably has something he wants to ask you about the Beatles. He didn't know you were gonna. He didn't know anything about your background. I don't brief people. I don't do any of that. There's no show prep. You could tell that. Nobody knows where it's going. This is the virus of the. I would say, I shouldn't say it that way because that sounds negative, but this is the same thing that is happening with COVID. Nobody knows where it's going to end, how it's going to end, or how it started. That's my life.
I think that's pretty much my life too.
Yeah.
Joey.
And now you've been on the road too. Before we get into Jay's stuff here, so Jay, I'll give you a minute to think of a question that you might want to ask as you hear a little bit more about Susan. I met her years ago, and I love being with her because first of all, she's articulate, she's beautiful, she's kind, she's generous. She never married me, so she's got all the qualifications of a good person. Susan, when you were on the road, when I first met you, you were living in a camper. Is that right?
I still do.
Oh no!
What you see in the background is my RV. I live in an RV and I have no home base. And I've lived in either in a van, a trailer, or an RV for 31 years.
What about? Is it paid for yet?
It was paid for when I bought it. I never finance anything. I don't believe in debt. I paid cash.
Wow. I believe in life or debt.
Life or debt.
So now when you drive around in that thing, you don't have like Beatles signs on it, Maharishi and all that, right? You're not doing the purple bus like they used to do.
No, it's quite a luxurious 40-foot beautiful RV. And I certainly wouldn't ruin it by painting the outside of it.
Are you driving? Do you drive this?
I devalue it that way.
Do you drive this thing?
I do drive it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if you know, one of my daughters is up in Humboldt County. She is not right now, but she was growing weed for a few years, when it was highly unfashionable and illegal.
Oh, yeah.
So she was there with I did a documentary about her, as a matter of fact, if you want to see it on YouTube. It was done with an iPhone and an iPad, and it's called iPod. So it was the first one of all of those things done by a handheld. Now everything that I shot looks like now, with the zooming. Yeah. Anyway, she was up there, and you've been to Humboldt, right? You've been up there to Humboldt County?
Actually, that is a place where Maharishi taught a 1 month course that I went to. Actually, he taught 2 of them up there in Humboldt at the college.
Yeah, and actually, it is a nice college. The Arcata College is up there. It's nice, but I think that whole area there is fertile because there's an inversion layer, and it's a fog rolls in, it kills the sun that would kill plants, but it gives them enough shade so that it furthers them. That's why it's so desirable. But they always mention that marijuana up there is the best in the country because it's closest to the sun and has the inversion layer that keeps it settled. Now, the other place they match that to is the Himalayas. Have you been up there?
I certainly have. I've been to India several times. And the Himalayas, I love traveling up there. I love traveling to India. You
go to Tibet as well?
I haven't been to Tibet yet. Maybe I will.
Yeah, that's up there on the hill. Have you met the Maharishi you met? Have you met the
Dalai Lama?
Yeah.
I did go to one of his initiations. He was doing this Kala Chakra, I think it's called, initiation. And I did that in Madison Square Garden one time. Wow. Long ago.
Yeah, I had the hugging saint. You ever know her?
Amaji, yes. I spent quite a lot of time with her when she first came to the United States. I used to hang out with her in the apartment she would stay in New York City. And so I had quite a lot of intimate time with her. I really loved being around her.
Yeah.
She was amazing. She
And
still is amazing, yeah.
And her breath was like floral. It smelled like roses, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, she always had that fragrance about her, and she's wonderful, yeah.
Mine is Clorox. You know, if you kiss me, you get, you don't have to worry about Listerine or any of that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But I hugged her, you know, and she sought me out in a crowd in LA one time. Because, you know, there's big long lines to get to her. She hugged me. And she held on to me too long, you know. Well, that's what my friends said. They said she doesn't usually grab people like that.
Oh, that's lovely. That's
I have very exciting breasts. That's what happens when you go to the gym. So now, Jay, asking Susan about anything here, because I've talked too much again.
No, that's fine. It's your show. Remember, it's
right.
Joey Reynolds Hangout.
Oh, the hell with you then. Back to Susan. Okay. No, seriously, you want to ask anything about the Beatles or the Maharishi or that? Because you don't know any of this stuff. You were too straight all your life.
Okay, fine.
I mean, you didn't do any drugs.
No.
That I could think of. I don't remember when we worked together. I don't think you ever smoked pot. I don't think you ever did.
I've never had a cigarette in my mouth even. So it's all right. It's okay. I guess, you know, the fact that John Lennon walked away from the ishram there because he had heard or suspected that the Maharishi was fooling around with Prudence.
Oh no, you really got that wrong. But that's okay. Let me straighten you out.
Please do, because John made it very clear, unless it was a smokescreen, I don't know. But he got very bored with it all and walked away. So what do you know about that?
Yeah, there were 3 reasons why John and George left the ashram in a huff. And I say John and George simply because Ringo was there only for 10 days. He came in February, left in February. And Paul was there for 5 weeks. And both
Ringo couldn't eat the food. Ringo said the food was too spicy.
Let her tell you. Let her tell you.
Got that right. No, I don't mind her interrupting. It's fine. It's true that Ringo had peritonitis when he was a child. And so he was having problems with the food. In fact, he had brought an entire suitcase of Heinz beans with him to India so he would have something to eat. But then I guess he ran out of Heinz beans in 10 days. No, not really. What happened was his wife couldn't stand the insects. It was a jungle, you know. There were scorpions, millipedes, centipedes, and she was terrified of flies. So she just couldn't handle the insects. And also, they really were missing their kids. They had a 6-month-old baby that was left behind at home, and they had 2 kids, and so they had to go home. I mean, they couldn't stay that long, mainly because of the kids. But also, there was an incident with Ringo, and that was that Mal Evans had managed to, who was their road manager, he had managed to get eggs for Ringo's breakfast, even though eggs are not allowed at the ashram. There were no meat products whatsoever allowed, and also even eggs weren't allowed. Wow. And they got the eggs for Ringo, and then the staff were caught burying the eggshells to hide the eggshells. And so Ringo thought that was, you know, he said, well, can't God see that too? That's how he reacted to it. So he was a little disillusioned by that. So anyway, he left after 10 days. Then Paul McCartney, he had come there with Jane Asher, and she had a theatrical commitment back in London. So he had to leave after 5 weeks at the ashram. But both Ringo and Paul had only glowing things to say about it. They enjoyed themselves. They had a wonderful time. They thought it was really cool. And Maharishi was giving lectures every day. And they really had good experiences as well, meditation experiences. So John and George stayed a lot longer. They stayed until April 10th, at which time they left in a huff. There were 3 reasons they left in a huff, and one of those reasons had to do with a film deal gone south. Maharishi had promised the Beatles and Apple Corps that they could do an exclusive film about Maharishi, about Transcendental Meditation, and about Maharishi's guru, who Maharishi always called Guru Dev. And I'll talk about that later, about Across the Universe and the meanings of some of the songs. But in any case, they were given exclusive rights to do this film. And Neil Aspinall, who was one of their managers, flew all the way to Rishikesh, India, to sign a contract and make a deal for this film. Uh-huh. But unfortunately, Maharishi had promised the same exclusive rights to someone else.
Thanks.
To 4 Star Productions of Hollywood. And a lawyer and Maharishi's head guy, Charlie Lutz, plus a lawyer from 4 Star Productions, arrived in Rishikesh with a signed contract that gave exclusive rights to film Maharishi for the next 5 years. And then the film crew from 4 Star Productions arrived in Rishikesh. And the next morning, they arrived overnight, one night. And the next morning, John Lennon opened the door to his bungalow. And he's standing there on the threshold of the door, bedheaded, bleary-eyed. And what does he see in the courtyard in front of him? He sees a cameraman and a director who yells, "Action!" John and George were furious. They were now supposed to be 2-bit players in someone else's film that they didn't know about. So they refused to leave their rooms. They refused to go to the lecture hall where the cameras and lights were set up. And they left soon after that. But there was something going on as well. Jay, you mentioned something about Maharishi making a pass at, well, you thought it was Prudence. No, Maharishi never made a pass at Prudence Farrow. In fact, Maharishi did make a pass at Mia Farrow, who is Prudence Farrow's sister, famous actress of the 1960s.
Oh, yeah.
And Maharishi was entranced by her. He had a crush on her. And he did try to make a pass at her, but that had nothing to do with the Beatles leaving. Because Mia Farrow left the ashram on March 7th, long before John and George left in a huff. So she had nothing to do with it. However, there was a woman, and her name was Rosalind Bonas. She was from Brooklyn, and she was there at the ashram. And yes, Maharishi did make a pass at her. And the Beatles were very upset about that. So that's another reason why they left.
There's a lot of meditating went on that week, huh?
Yeah.
Do you still do meditation?
Oh, yeah. I don't do transcendental meditation. I haven't really practiced that since 1989. However, I do practice a form of meditation that I write about, which is called divine revelation. That's the method that I practice.
Oh, that's what they have in the White House.
You know, they have transcendental meditation in the White House because Kushner and Ivanka both practice transcendental meditation.
What's the difference? I have meditation plain. So what's the one that's got the frills on it? What's the transcendental? What does that mean?
Transcendental meditation is the one that Maharishi was the founder of transcendental meditation. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who I've been talking about here, the Beatles went to visit in India, and he was the founder. And that is a form of meditation where you use a mantra. A mantra is a Sanskrit word or group of words that you either chant or that you repeat silently in your mind. And in transcendental meditation, you're repeating this mantra And that's what takes you into deep relaxation and into transcendental consciousness.
I repeat all of the
Beatles were practicing.
I repeat the call letters of the stations I worked for.
Yeah, that's it. W-O-R.
And you'd be there all day.
W-O-R.
That's my mantra.
Right, that's your mantra.
No, meditation is not what you think.
Not what who thinks.
It's just not what you think. It's necessary. I get centered with it. I think it's an important part of life. I got friendly with Wayne Dyer. Wayne and I are good friends for a number of years, and he had taken care of Ram Dass. You know who he is?
Yes.
A Jewish guy from Long Island who gave him name.
Richard Alpert.
Yeah, exactly. And he got leukemia. Did you know that? Ram Dass had leukemia.
I didn't know.
And Wayne was taking care of him. Wayne was in Maui. They both live in Maui, and he was he financed him and took and helped him with all his health issues. And ironically, and it was just a horrible thing, Wayne got leukemia and died from that. Did you know that? I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's a tragic story.
I didn't know that whole story. No.
Yeah.
I think Ram Dass is still alive, though.
Yeah, he is. Thanks to Wayne.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the irony of it. But Wayne is such a good friend and a good person.
He was wonderful.
Yeah.
Very inspirational. Wonderful speaker. Wonderful author.
Well, there was a time when we had Marion Williams and Wayne and you and all of you guys were on the road with various messages of what we call self-help. I don't know what that was, probably a bad expression, but
self-help is that's a good description of the type of books that we write. Yeah.
I don't know if it doesn't sound so enlightening, it just sounds like something like a selfie,
Well, spiritual self-help is what it is, actually. That's the genre.
Well, you were one of the pioneers of bringing that message across too, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And you wrote famously about it, but there are other people who have done this, and I got friendly with Jerry Jampolsky and his wife Diane, and Jerry was the first of the writers next to Earl Nightingale when he was published with Love Is Letting Go of Fear, and he was on the Johnny Carson show, because you guys know how to use the media. And I don't know if you know my description of the media or not. I have I give it a name. Media is short for mediocrity.
You're right.
Yeah. So there's the belief system that I have, which is to practice the yoga and do the meditation, and also I believe in a higher power. Some people don't. They don't care about that. And I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know. Madeleine Murray O'Hara, do you ever remember her?
No.
She was the world famous atheist.
Oh, no wonder I don't know about her.
Yeah, she was very, very unattractive. And because when she said she didn't believe in God, a lot of people didn't really care. But she was traveling the world. Her son became a minister, the one son, and the other one, I don't know, he followed her a bit. There's a story about her. I liked her, but I had her on the show one night in Denver. I had the TV show, and she had wore the short skirt, which a woman that size probably shouldn't do on a set with a couch.
Probably not.
And then in those days, the women were wearing these nylons, and she had them rolled up, and so you could see that roll.
Oh no!
And I was just praying they did close-ups, and I kept trying to signal the cameraman to not go back. Coming closer, but you can't direct the show up here from the floor. Yeah. And I'm talking to her about atheism and her son and the minister and how she's traveled. And then she sneezed. And I said, I don't know who we're going to get to bless you. That was my great Madeleine Murray O'Hara moment.
It's a good story.
You and I have a lot of fun together. We've had a lot of fun, Susan.
Absolutely. I love going to your studio, and it's sort of like a circus. There's always a circus going on up there in the studio.
I know. Well, see, we don't do that. Well, I know. We can't do that. And the people who want to carry this thing that we're doing here, this anomaly, they don't understand that you don't have to move fast. You just have to be interesting.
Right.
They don't get it. They think if you put someone 12 years old on camera, you're going to have every 12-year-old watching it. You know, I mean, and yet they never realized that Mr. Rogers was 40 years older than any kid he ever talked to, and Captain Kangaroo was retired. He was a retired circus clown, and the one who did Romper Room, Miss Francis, I think her name was, she was like 80. You know, I mean, what the hell? We grew up with Walter Cronkite, who was my grandfather, on television. So what exactly. Children on TV now, they, you know, there's a great Spanish saying that if you sleep with children, you wake up pissed on. And that's what's happened to our industry. That's the media.
Oh my goodness, that's
yeah. I mean, you know, they have no skills. There's a kid that's doing an AT&T commercial, and because she's on every half hour, you know, that will celebritize anybody. I mean, you know, if you're a criminal and you're on every half hour, you're famous. You know, I mean, that's what this thing does. It puts this in your face. Yeah. So, you know, when you have someone like that on TV, these agencies, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. They think they put someone who is ill-equipped to know anything about life to sit there and talk about a phone. Now, I mean, I want to get there and give the history of how they were the first people AT&T were the first to launch a satellite next to Sputnik and the U.S. government, you know, but they don't want to hear about that, or the underground cable. You know, I want to hear about things that where you grow a little bit and you learn and you experience, not some twerpy little girl sitting there saying, you know, I mean, what is that? That's so stupid. But, you know, we dumb down so much that's what we call entertainment now. And so young people watching that think that they relate. You know, I relate. You know, I don't relate to anything.
They relate to total superficiality.
I don't relate to my relatives. You know, I mean, there's the relationship that I have is with myself. Now, that's what we're coming to you now. So you've been teaching that.
Yeah.
Ever since I've known you. What is it, about 30 years, 40 years, something like that,
something
right?
Like that, yeah. It's been a long time.
And so what made you begin to teach that? Where did you go with that?
I think it was because I was a hippie. It was the 60s, and I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area. And those of us who were flower children, we were seeking what we called at that time altered states of consciousness or higher consciousness. We were looking for nirvana. And our gurus at that time were Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert, who later became Ram Dass. And they were telling us to turn on, tune in, and drop out. And they wrote a book called The Psychedelic Experience. It was based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So we were attempting to have these experiences of altered consciousness through taking psychedelic drugs like LSD and marijuana. And we didn't do it to get high. We did it to have higher awareness, higher consciousness. So that was my background. I was seeking that, and I was reading the Buddhist scriptures. I was reading Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. I was reading The Way of Zen and other works by Alan Watts. And in Alan Watts' books, he said that you have to find a meditation guide. Well, in 1966 in Berkeley, California, you didn't exactly go to the yellow pages and look up meditation guide or anything remotely similar to that. So I asked a roommate, well, how do I find this meditation guide? And he said, well, have you ever tried to meditate on your own? And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I lay down on my bed and I sort of prayed for or asked for a meditation. And immediately I was propelled into this ecstatic state. And I could feel this chord or rush of energy rushing all the way from the tips of my toes all the way to the top of my head. And I felt like I was plugged into this cosmic electric socket, but in a most ecstatic way. And I figured, well, I guess this is meditation. I didn't know any better. Little did I know that not only had I had my first meditation experience, but also Kundalini awakening all at the same time without any stimulants or any drugs whatsoever.
How about you, Jay? You thinking about changing?
I want what she's having.
No, she said cunning linguist.
She's a cunning linguist. I got
yeah. You probably heard this wrong. I know. You know, you hang around that adult bookstore in Lakewood.
Nice. Yeah, right. the Civic bookstore.
Yeah. Cunning language.
Which, as a front, it's the Dunkin' Donuts, featuring the peanut sticks. So now, when you're watching this, Jay, you know, we're friends, and you've been present for a lot of these. You've been a witness to a lot of these crucifixions that I've had, where the industry has put me on a cross.
Yeah.
And now they're about to celebrate me. You know, they have nominated me for the Radio Hall of Fame, I guess it is.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, it is, because it's one of those things that I should have had a long time ago instead of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, it's a reverse role, because that's for music people, I think. But I keep saying that because I think I got the wrong award. But, you know, you take anyone you can get, actually. I'm thinking that this Radio Hall of Fame thing is going to put me up there because Jay is out there lobbying for me. Aren't you, Jay?
Yeah, been doing that for a long time.
Have you? Did you vote yet?
Of course I did.
It's a mail-in.
Oh, better be careful. It might be fake if it's a mail-in.
It's a mail-in vote. That's good. That's very good. You got to get them in there somehow.
Yeah, well, this is my job.
I know.
I don't have a job, actually. Did you know that, Susan? I have no work.
I figured you probably didn't, you know.
Yeah. Hanging around with two deadbeats here.
Yeah. One that drives around in a trailer and one that lives in a retirement village. On the
internet, I found out that you had gone back to a radio not that long ago, like in 2016 or something. You were on a radio back in New York, and I didn't know. I never knew about that.
Well, it was actually twofold. We were on NBC television on the digital channels, and that was out of Times Square, live out of the window, with the big production every night, 10 to midnight. It was on the air. They ran it at midnight, but we did it at 10 o'clock. And that was on. It was a terrific show. But we owned it. And you know, when you own something, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You know, when you don't have the money to pay for your own show, then you got to go and get it from somebody. And I kept asking all the wrong people. You know, I went to the mob. There's no way that you can finance a television show without having a sponsor. You got to have a sponsor. Sure. So we didn't catch one, but now everybody's got that. See, we didn't have smart TV yet, and all of this business. You know, it wasn't ready. It was the phone is directing the traffic, but we were ahead of it. We were there.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Radio, television, internet are all one. As far as I'm concerned, you know, it's very Buddhist. All make me one. You know, it's all one. And the thing here with the radio you're talking about, we were on WABC and KABC with a simulcast. That was last year and a half or two ago.
That's but 2.5 years ago. Yeah.
So we did a show every Sunday night for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And now I've been doing this thing for a year. This Hangout is we've done about 35 of these shows, I think. I'm not trying to be anything, and it's working fine. You know, I just we kept it going as as something to do to reach the public that is interested in quality people like yourself.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, as I said earlier in this conversation, which I'm doing all the talking today, I apologize for that. I've done that lately because I got excited. You know, the part of it is showing off. You know, I think this thing here is that I don't think that the industry itself is understanding that it's not how many hits or clicks you have. It's how many souls you save in religion, and it's how much brain power you have in government, and it's how many people get it in broadcasting. And when I was on the radio years ago, and I didn't look for an audience, they found me. And the reason they could is because I was available. But in this day and age, we're not available. There's no way that anybody knows we're here until someone else tells them, or or there's a lot of promotion on regular TV or radio. See, that's
Right.
the problem. The problem is that they don't know we're here. This should be the hottest show in town right now, because I've said all these terrible things all week about black people that I would be probably be sent to court. But they're funny things, though. They weren't mean. I mean, I'm not mean. But I make all these comments. I'm always picking on someone. I just do it to be goofy. That's all. You know, it's not mean. But I don't, you know, the life is too, it's too complex right now. I like it a lot simpler. How about you?
I agree wholeheartedly. Life is very complex now, with so many people dying, and I mean, this COVID thing is pretty hard to deal with.
And you're traveling around in an RV. How do you manage that?
Well, you know, for me, life hasn't changed very much during COVID because I'm a recluse anyway, and I'm sitting at my desk writing books all the time. So it's not like it's difficult for me to socially isolate. I'm already socially isolated.
What have you written lately? You must have something up your sleeve.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. What came out recently was the Big Book of Chakras. That came out in November. On January 1st, another book called Third Eye Meditations. Right now I'm writing a book called Prosperity Meditations. And then next year I have another book due. I have to get it done. It's called How India Influenced the Beatles.
Well, what is that about? Let's hear a little. Give us a bite on that one.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the reality is that the Beatles were very highly influenced by India, especially by Maharishi. In fact, when they were in Rishikesh, they wrote 40 songs, which is a tremendous amount of output for a very short time that they were there. And that ended up being the White Album, which is lauded as by many people as one of their greatest albums, one of the greatest albums of all times. And in fact, 50 years later, it was in the top 10 on Billboard. So the lyrics of the songs that people have been humming for 50 years, and then they don't know what the songs mean. In this book, I'm going to be revealing the true meaning of many of these songs, including, for example, I'll just give you a few examples. One would be Across the Universe. That was written right after the Beatles first learned Transcendental Meditation. And John wrote that in 1967. The Beatles learned TM, which was the method that Maharishi taught. They learned that in late August of 1967. Actually, August 26th to be exact. And then very soon after that, John wrote the song Across the Universe, which was a beautiful, I love that song. And so does John. He says it's one of his best songs. He loves the lyrics, and so do I. And it really describes meditation to a T. And in that song, John sings Jai Guru Deva. Well, this was completely from Maharishi, obviously. Maharishi, whenever he would meet somebody or he would send someone away, whatever, he would never say hello or goodbye or have a good day. Instead, he would put his hands together and he would say, Jai Guru Dev, Jai Guru Dev. He used to say that like 100 times a day. He would say, Jai Guru Dev. So what does that mean? It means hail to the divine teacher. And what Maharishi meant was hail to his teacher, he called Guru Dev. His name was Brahmananda Saraswati, which was his guru. Mm-hmm. And so he was giving praise to his guru all the time. So John Lennon put that in the song Across the Universe.
My greeting is Hiya Hiya.
Hiya Hiya.
So wait, you didn't finish it. So there was another one. You said
there's tons of songs. I was going to talk about Revolution, for example. So that song was based upon something called the Maharishi effect. Maharishi always used to say, in order for the forest to be green, the trees must be green. in order for the world to be at peace, individuals must be at peace. That was a philosophy that made a lot of sense to me. And that was one reason why I was so enthusiastic about Transcendental Meditation, because I was raised in the Cold War. And during that time, I was terrified that atom bomb was going to fall on my head when I was a baby, when I was a child. And make matters worse, we lived near an Air Force base. So the planes were always going over our heads, and I was always worried that it would be an atom bomb. When I was 3 years old, I was scared to death.
Yeah.
So my goal throughout my childhood was, let's have world peace. Whenever there was a birthday, whenever I was wishing on a star or a wishing well, it would always be world peace. So when I met Maharishi and his whole shtick, everything he always talked about was world peace, that really resonated with me. So this idea of individuals being peaceful, and that's how we create a peaceful world, that's why Maharishi trained 40,000 teachers to teach Transcendental Meditation. And they taught 6 million people to meditate during Maharishi's lifetime. Wow. And Maharishi claimed that if a small number of people, a small percentage of the world would become peaceful, would meditate, that we could create peace on earth. So what he would do is he would actually do experiments with this. He would send hundreds of people to meditate in large groups to crime-ridden areas and to war-torn areas. And what they found when they did statistical analysis was that the crime rate would go down, the war would subside during the time the people were meditating in these places. So this song, Revolution, is about the Maharishi effect. It's about, you better change your mind instead. Rather than fighting in a revolution, you've got to change your mind. And that's the way we can create a revolution, a spiritual revolution that will transform the world. That's the way that we can have world peace.
John Lennon waffled about that. You can count me in, out.
Out, yeah. There was one version of the song where he did say, count me in, out. Mm-hmm.
The song Sexy Sadie was really about the Maharishi. He changed the name of the song.
Correct. When they were about to leave Rishikesh in a huff, they were waiting for the taxis to arrive. Magic Alex was really behind all this, behind getting the Beatles to leave. In fact, Magic Alex, otherwise known as Alexis Mardis, was his real name. He actually admitted that the only reason he came to India was to get the Beatles away from Maharishi, because he was jealous, because John Lennon had called Magic Alex his guru. He had introduced the other Beatles. He introduced Alex to all the other Beatles as my new guru, Magic Alex. So he was jealous. And anyway, he went to get the taxis to rush them away from the ashram as quickly as possible. And while they were waiting, John Lennon wrote this song. It was called Maharishi. Maharishi, what have you done? You made a fool of everyone, and so on. And then, it had all this explicit, very horrible language. He was cursing during the song. And so George said to John, what the heck, you can't write a song like that. What are you doing? And so John Lennon changed it to Sexy Sadie rather than Maharishi.
Well, that's a great story. All of these are wonderful experiences, because I know the Beatles changed my life. On the radio, we were more popular when they weren't around. And then after they came along, it killed the disc jockey, because the disc jockey was only there to play their records, and as many of them as you could get your hands on for as long as you could stand it. You know, that was the way it went, and we were all pushed out of the picture. As celebrities. As the bigger, we became the closing act. Yeah. And radio is so different. But what I was thinking, you were talking about the atom bomb. We used to go under the desk when we had the alarm.
Exactly. Under the desk, like that would save you from an atom bomb.
I know. We had the nuns, and here they're worried about wearing masks at school this fall. I spent half my life under a desk, You know,
Exactly.
I did
and we have inkwells too. You know, but you know, Susan, what happened? The Maharishi still with us, or did he go?
No.
Oh, he died in 2008.
Were you expecting that, or? I mean, is there a transition to the next life? Any of that dialogue?
You know, he was 90 when he died, so
Yeah.
he was already very elderly, and he was quite weak near the end. So people.
Why? Why was he weak? All he was
He
sit
was
there.
old. He was old.
Oh, I see.
Not old. Very old.
Oh, so am I going to face that? Am I going to get weak?
I don't have a crystal ball. I can't. Really.
I think I hope not this week. Got a couple of things.
Well, you made it through the hurricane, so you know.
What hurricane? Look at that. This is the hurricane. Look at behind me. This is this big hurricane we've had.
Quite a bit of wind there, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. What is me?
A breeze. There's a breeze.
Yeah. Oh, coming out of my.
Where are you in Florida? Which town?
Fort Lauderdale. I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
That's a nice place.
Yeah, it's very nice. So where are you traveling to now? Where are you going?
I'm in Denver, Colorado right now.
Great place.
And I'll be here for probably the rest of the summer, I imagine. You know, it's nice here in the summertime.
I know.
I try to avoid freezing weather because motorhomes are not fun in freezing weather.
I know.
So I try to stay in a nice climate all year round.
I was
Do
on
they let you?
KOA in Denver, KOA and KCNC it's called now, but it was KOA radio and TV. So I had an all-night show for 5 hours on television in Denver.
Oh my goodness, you've been everywhere.
All streets to live on with that marijuana thing. I lived on High Street.
You're on High Street.
You know, it's right where the Capitol is.
Yeah.
Very nice. It's a beautiful city. And I like the city. It's a good walking city because they got rid of all the transportation downtown. You know, they put trolley cars in there. But I saw the Nuggets played yesterday too. They played our Miami Heat, so I still watch a little bit of that basketball. And the Heat won, incidentally. Heat wins out over cold. But, I think somewhere along the line we should get together, you and I, somewhere. You know,
for sure.
Yeah, you know, I always like being with you. You're a terrific friend.
Well, when I come to Florida, I'll look you up.
Or when I go back to New York, if they ever let me in again because of the quarantine, you know, I commute, but I haven't been able to go since the beginning of this thing. And because you got to go somewhere for 2 weeks before, you know, when you get off the plane, you have to go somewhere for 2 weeks. That's like Rikers Island, you know, go to jail. I don't know.
They're letting them all out, so it's fine.
Well, let's give a little shout out for your book here now. What is this called? What's the latest?
Yeah, the book is called Maharishi and Me, Seeking Enlightenment with the Beatles Guru. I started writing this book in 1998 because an editor, I believe it was at McGraw-Hill or someplace, or Macmillan, one of those. Anyway, the editor said that the book that she wants to see is my memoir. So I started writing this memoir, and you know, that was in 1998. Wow. And I got the book published in 2018. So do the math.
Well, did you ever decide to go back with him at any time?
Maharishi?
Yeah.
No, I never looked back. I left the ashram in 1989. And I did not look back after that. No.
Never.
Well, actually, I was already practicing this other form of meditation that I liked better, which is called divine revelation. And that's the reason why I didn't really go back.
And what's that? What's divine revelation?
It's really a very simple method of asking and receiving. It's based upon this one principle: ask and it shall be given unto you. So it's really it really involves something that is known as guided meditation, actually, and that is what is featured in my latest book, which is called Third Eye Meditations. That book is just filled with guided meditations, which is the simplest way to meditate, because all it is just follow the instructions.
Yeah. Well, you're great. You're a great friend, and I love having you with us here. I think Jay is just learning a little bit about you and probably would like to spend some more time with you.
Absolutely.
I want to be in the
I
want to go in the
wonderful friend,
RV.
Joey. I'm sorry.
I want to hang out in the RV.
Yeah, the RV is totally fun. It's a great thing to have an RV, especially during the COVID time, because you can travel anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. You're in your vehicle and nobody cares.
Well, I care about you. You're great. And I'm really happy to reconnect with you. Haven't done it in a while.
And I care about you too, Joey. I really consider you to be a very great friend also.
Thank you. I love you. You're great.
I love you too.
Susan Shumsky. And don't forget that, that guy with the beard behind her, she never married him. So don't get any ideas. And all that he should have had Gillette as a sponsor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sweetheart. And also,
and thank you for inviting
no, I didn't mean you. I meant Jay.
Yeah.
No, Jay is great. Thank you, both of you guys. All right, let a smile be your umbrella, but don't get a mouthful of rain.